EtherHaul 100 series, and then we will continue by going in details of the EtherHaul 614TX specifically. We will follow with a Q&A and obviously close this discussion. At any point in time, if you have any questions, just go ahead and use the questions entry in the GoToWebinar console. I will try to answer during the discussion, and if I cannot, I will answer at the end of the Q&A. And if any question is not answered at all, do not worry. We are going to respond in writing as well, and we will share a recording, the Q&A session, and some slides of what we presented as well. So you'll have a complete package in case some of your colleague was not able to join, for example. So before we start, actually, I'd like to know a little better who could join today, and I'll do a short poll of the audience to understand who is in attendance. So that will be this one here. We are going to run a few moments, say 30 seconds or so, to try to understand who is in the audience. Exactly, just pick up the response which matches your organization or the organization that you represent best. Thank you very much for letting me know who I'm talking with today. That's very helpful. Okay, 10 more seconds to go, so that those who have needed a little more time to decide. Okay, so I'm going to close now. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. The poll is closed. So we have about a third of the audience are system integrators. Another third are wireless ISPs. Almost a third are service providers. And then we have some of the audience belonging to the enterprise and local, state, federal government. Okay, that's a very diverse audience, and it's appropriate because I think that the 614TX is going to work well for a multitude of applications. So I'll start now with the presentation, and first a little bit of a refresher maybe on the V-Band. The V-Band is that portion of the millimeter wave which starts at 57 and ends at 64 gigahertz. And what is interesting about this portion of the spectrum, first of all, that's more spectrum than in any other band currently. And it really, because there's so much spectrum, it's possible to create large channels that make it very easy to deliver multi-gigabit capacity. We have a number of products that deliver this already. Because it is part of the millimeter wave spectrum, security and reliability are basically almost built in, basically at the physical layer, because we have these very narrow pencil-thin beams, which are very difficult to interfere or to jam, and with a minimalistic Fresnel zone, it's very easy to avoid obstruction. Basically, give us line of sight, just 1 or 2 meters from the center line between the two antennas, and the link is up. Very easy to get links up with these conditions. But then there's a little bit of a surprise, and we have the oxygen effect. somewhere around 62 gigahertz in that spectrum. You can see here the peak. So we have a very unconventional high attenuation, between 10 and 14 dBs per kilometer, which is not good to go very long distances, but now actually it's pretty good to go short distances, which is typical in mass dense deployments, because we know that the beams are not going to go very far. That makes it very easy to plan a network with a very high reuse factor. So wouldn't you say that this spectrum is pretty good as it is? But it gets even better because in the US, some time ago, the FCC decided, and took a little bit more time for that to be official, to extend the V-band all the way to 71 gigahertz. There are a few countries which are blessed, and we are one of those. So now we have 14 gigahertz of spectrum. It's even easier to do these multi-gigabit capacity deployments, even more spectrum than in any other band, even in many bands combined. We retain the advantages of millimeter wave security and reliability. But now we have an additional band starting at basically 64 going all the way to 71. And you can see there that the attenuation of the oxygen effect basically somewhere around 66 is minimalistic, which now allows us to go for range in this V-band, in the upper portion of the V-band. So now that we have additional spectrum, we can go farther, almost to the same level or distances, that we can go in the E-band, which is starts at 71 gigahertz. But we don't need to register because it is still a license exempt spectrum. And now that we have actually twice the amount of channels, we have twice the capability of density, because we have just even more channels available now in that spectrum. So what was already a great spectrum just becomes now fantastic with all these new options that are available to us. So how does that apply to the EtherHaul 100 series in the US? The EtherHaul to begin with was already the EtherHaul 100 series. To begin with, was already type of radios that we have at Ciclo, where we could offer both V-band license exempt and E-band lightly licensed options. They are all TDD up to 1 gigabit, and because of their different form factors, we can go from the street level with the V-band to the rooftops with the E-band radios. The E-band radios in the US require a minimum gain, which means relatively larger antennas, which are not very well suitable for the street level deployments. But now we have the 614TX, which is an addition to this EtherHaul 100 series. And with these additional distances that we have now, and we're going to see the numbers in a moment, we think that it's not just a street level application, it becomes now interesting to utilize the 614TX for rooftops and longer distances, basically all in the V-band. So again, no need to register, but we can go now further out, about 50%. And all this while retaining a very popular form factor of the 600TX radios. The GA date was August the 14th, so about 10 days ago now. All the distributors are ready to take orders. They are aware of pricing and any other details, what are the accessories. We'll go over this during the presentation today also. So again, what is the 614TX? It's today the only radio that operates across the complete V-band. So it operates in the lower portion, 57 to 64, and it also operates in the higher portion, 64 to 71. The only radio today on the market which can cover basically the two bands in, or the two sub-bands, if you want, in the V-band spectrum. Because the 614TX does not suffer basically from, I mean, with these newer channels, does not suffer from the oxygen attenuation. In the new portion of the spectrum, it can basically go 50% farther out. If we look at an existing 600TX, that's 600 meter or 0.37 miles, that's zone K. So it's about Chicago area for the full gigabit of capacity at 99.9% availability. And now with the same parameters, just moving into the portion of the spectrum where oxygen is not so much of concern, we can go all the way to 900 meters, which is 0.56 miles. So it basically means that we have more distance, and that applies, generally speaking, to cases where we want to start connecting rooftops, not only street level, because we need to have the line of sight between the two locations. I told you earlier that the additional spectrum gives us option for mass dense deployments. The 614TX has a total of 14 channels that are supported in the radio across all that spectrum. So it means that with new channels, we have more options for dense deployments. That's basically two reasons why we call this radio 614. It's 14 gigahertz in V-band and also 14 channels. So there are two ways to remember what the 614 can do for us. So I told you that 614 is somewhere near the 600TX. We have received a ton of complementary feedback on the 600TX with the form factor, the ease of deployment, the ease of operation. And we thought that if we want to go in that, extend into that spectrum, we should try and reuse as much as possible of what everybody likes. So we've been able to retain the mechanics, the form factor, the amount of switches, the mounting kit, which is also very small. A lot of the look and feel. We just had to build different radios inside, different modems and filters and whatnot to be able to cover that extra range inside the single box. But otherwise, anything that you know and like about the 600TX, you are going to find in the 614. So it's the same mounting kit, same PoE power, same ease of alignment, the same built-in 3 ports gigabit Ethernet switch with PoE-Out options. In terms of operation, the same web GUI, just have more channels available in the list of channels when you select US, of course, as the country where the link is deployed. You have CLI, SNMP, syslog, radio stackax, all the operational support that were built into the 600 are ported over to the 614. In order to continue and make it simple, we have the same basic features and upgrades. So 500 megs of basic capacity upgradable to a full gig, support for AES, extend MM. The only thing to pay attention to is that 614TX will ship out of the factory with release 7.6, which was announced a few weeks ago for all of our EtherHaul portfolio. Whether you do not necessarily need to upgrade all of your radios, 614TX will not work with a software which is earlier than 7.6. But again, it should not be very challenging. Perhaps if we are already talking about 7.6 here, one feature which is available with 7.6 is the ability to trial any of the licenses without purchasing them. So if you want to try the full capacity, if you want to try the encryption, extend the MEM, layer 2 features, as an example, each feature can be activated for 30 days, each license on its own, even though you did not purchase and you did not activate the software license file into the radio. That's good, for trials to see that this feature, the feature that you would like to purchase, is going to work in the way you understand. It's going to work for your network, and if you like it, you can go ahead and purchase. Just load the software file, and the feature will stay operational. If you do not load the software file after 30 days, the radio will revert to the previous mode of operation where that feature is not supported. And any feature can be activated independently. So now we continue to look at part numbers so that you would have an idea of basically what is the same and what is different. So there is a new part number, obviously for the 614TX. It's because that's a TDD radio, there is a single part radio, and the radios will decide on their own which is master, which is slave. And then all of the other basically software upgrade packages, mounting kits, accessories, PoEs are common to the rest of our portfolio. There is really nothing new. But actually it's also here maybe a good opportunity to mention that we have released a new PoE. The formal announcement is going to be sent out in a few days. It's again a 60 watt PoE. We'll explain later why we had to develop it, but what is important to remember is that this PoE is rated by the Department of Energy for efficiency level 6, which is the highest available. That's basically part of our green campaign that we started a few months ago, and we look at the way we operate, we look at the way our equipment works and what can be done to become a little greener and basically friendlier to the world we live in. So what do we have in terms of support package? Obviously we are able to cover a good amount of information today, but you might have questions coming in even after this webinar. So on the website you will find the EtherHaul 100 series provide the information on all of the members, and with links to the datasheets of the 614 in particular. We have a product selector for people who are not really sure for the range or for the capacity that we are looking, which is the radio that we would recommend, and make it basically a little easier to understand or narrow down the options. We have a product selector on our website, and obviously the 614 is available there. So those of you who are system integrators want to guide your audience to that product selector and let them understand, why you are recommending the option that you will recommend. On our partners portal, we have more information. Again, the datasheet is also there. But we'll obviously have also an installation manual for the 614, and we have a product description which comes together with the generic system description, and these two documents go very much in details to provide you with block diagrams and performance information and features which are supported. A lot more technical data is available in these two documents. And then we have our smart haul application, so the link budget calculator, which basically allows to check reliability of a link and capacity in different locations, taking into account rain effects and So you go to lbc.ciclo.com, most of you probably know, and you have an option there. If you select a city which is in the US to trial or evaluate performance of links with the 614TX. We have also our wireless network design engine, Windy. We are rolling out a new release very soon, release 1.3, and the 614 will be included in our wireless network design engine. If you're not familiar with Windy, you can point your browser to planner.ciclo.com. Again, it's planner.ciclo.com, and that will give you a very short introduction about Windy. There is also information on our website in the smart hall area, and you have the option to ask for a trial access, and we'll be glad to let you see and trial this fantastic application if you want. So a little bit about pricing. The list price of a 614TX is $730. That's the one number that you should have to remember. And then you see all the other parts have a price, a list price, which you are familiar with. If we go and compare now all of our EtherHaul 100 series options for 1 gigabit link price, you are aware already of the different performances in terms of range, ports which are available. But to put all this into a little bit of perspective, so you have the 600TX, 614TX, which goes 50% farther out, and then the 1200TX, which is again a 1 gigabit capacity. So we take basically two radios, two antennas, two mounting kits, software licenses, PoEs, make the addition, and you can see that you have basically four added performance in terms of distance. There is a little bit of a premium there, and we think that it basically gives everybody an option to optimize the expenses on the network with the distances that they want or need or have to reach out. So now we have a good choice of options again in this 100 series, and beside the few differences, or the small differences, sorry, in the list prices, we also have to maybe look more at what these different radios can do for us, and when should we prefer one versus the other. So I've tried to map here on this chart the main characteristics, and main differences between the different radios. Some of them are similar in some aspects, some of them differ a little bit. But we have the 600, 500TXs on the right, 614 in the middle, and 1200TX all the way to the left. So I think the first parameter to look at is basically we have some radios in E-band and some radios in V-band. And that is already possibly the first decision criteria. If I absolutely do not want to share with anybody, where are my links going to be, and there are a number of reasons. If I don't want to bother with registration, not that it's a difficult process or expensive, but if I just don't want to let everybody know where my links are going to be deployed, probably want to not register, which means I should go for the V-band. If on the other hand I want absolute protection and absolute reliability for my link, then probably have to bite the bullet and register the links, and it means operating in the E-band with a 1200TX. Now there are some other differences again in terms of ports. 1200TX, for example, has fiber. The 614, 600TX do not have fiber, but they have 3 RJ45 ports where the 1200TX has only 2. The 614, 600, 500 have better PoE-Out option, so it's 2 ports and twice the amount of power out of the radio, which means that if you need to collocate additional radios, if you need to deploy maybe a camera, Wi-Fi access points, a small cell, you might be able to take advantage of the built-in switch and the PoE power coming out of it, and that can be a reason to prefer the 614 or 600 over the 1200TX. So that's I think some of the decision criteria, and but if we said okay, I don't want to register. Now I have to make still a decision between 614 and 600, for example. We think that the 614 with its additional channels, ability to go farther out, is a better choice because it will cater for more scenario, more deployments than the 600 can do. So the recommendation should be look for the 614 first, and there should be maybe limited reasons if you really have to count the dollars to go for the 600 and not prefer the 614. So if we want to basically try to condense all of what the 100 series can do, it's basically a 1 gigabit series with lots of options in terms of license exempt and lightly licensed radios. It can go from the street level or the rooftop street level in V-Band, but rooftops E-Band and V-Band now with the 614 ability to go that much farther out. You have a good choice in balances between ports, 3 or 4 RJ45 fiber options. You can do a PoE-Out with a different amount of power depending on what you need to do to daisy chain or power other devices. And what is important is in the V-Band you can go today 900 meters with the 614TX. Again, that's in zone K, taking into account the rain. With no rain effect, it would go obviously farther out, but we are not in a habitat cycle to not take into account rain. And if we compare, what the 1200TX can do with a 2-feet antenna, that's now 3,700 meters. So that's quite far out. So I think we've gone over here all the material I had to present. I want to turn over now to a Q&A session and look at the few questions which were asked already in order to maybe let you collect your thoughts. I'm going to send out a poll again and basically see what the audience here thinks about the advantages or the reasons to utilize the 614TX. So take a moment to look at the poll. The questions here again, select one question which is more important for you, and let us know basically where you see the most attraction for this radio. So I see about 50% of the audience has voted already. Thank you. I'm going to let this run another 10-15 seconds maybe for everybody else to decide. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the responses are in. Thank you very much. So basically let me see if I can share the results with everybody. So I think there is a lot of the audience basically is going to look at the 614 to solve range issues or on the fact that it is license exempt. But with this added range now comes the option to do rooftop installations as well. Well, thank you very much. I'm now going to turn over to the Q&A session per se. Going to see if there are already some questions asked. So okay, the first question here is about 614. Would it be compatible with the 600? They both operate in the V-Band, so it could be assumed. And yes, to some extent, the 600 and 614 will interoperate, in all the channels which they share in common. So we have 8 channels available on the 600TX. We have more channels, on the 600TX. We have more channels on 614, but again, in these lower channels which they share, they will interoperate, absolutely no issue. For example, if you have started the network with 600s and now you want to continue and roll out 614 exclusively, and you also want to keep some spare radios, you are right in that case you could keep some 614s only. And if a link which has been deployed with 600s would see a failure on one side, you can put there a 614, set it up for the same channel as the other side, and it will work no problems at all. Another question here is about rain fade in V-Band. Yes, that's not surprising actually. The reason, when the oxygen is active, and you know what, I'm going to maybe utilize a chart to help us have a look at this. Is that chart now visible? Sorry, I should. Okay, so everybody now should have that chart which we saw earlier. And if we look basically, at the left portion of the V-band spectrum and what for many of us was the only V-band spectrum available in the US, you see here that up to a few hundred meters, the oxygen effect is much more part of the attenuation than what the rain would be. So even if there is a good amount of rain, it's going to be negligible compared to the amount of attenuation caused by the oxygen effect in the lower part of the spectrum, all the way up to 64, maybe even 60, 65, 66. However, if we look at the portion of the spectrum which start at 66, so we have less than 2 dB of attenuation, all the way to 71, when it's actually almost nothing at all. And now, as soon as the rain would be important, because the oxygen effect has not been important, and we might have gone further out, taking advantage of the newer spectrum. Now the rain is going to become important. more important than the oxygen attenuation, which is less than 2 dB. So for 1 kilometer. So that's really why even though we were never talking about rain fade because it was negligible compared to the oxygen attenuation. Now that we are moving to an area where the oxygen attenuation is not an issue, we have to start looking at rain fade effect on these links. Again, our link budget calculator has been up to speed on rain fade calculation for a good amount of time because we were doing E-band calculations as well. So we utilize the same database, same algorithms. We've just plugged into our link budget calculator the additional channels and the data of the radio basically for the 614TX. So if you want to compare what's the behavior of the 600 versus 614TX, in any city in the US, go to the link budget calculator, check, use the lower channel, put a higher channel, so that you can go further out. But as soon as you would put rain and availability matters to you, you will see that if you go into regions of the nation where there is more rain during the year, for the same availability, the distance is going to be a little more limited. And I hope that this chart here clarifies that. Another question along the same lines is how about wet snow? So wet snow is actually less of a challenge than rain because generally speaking it is not as dense as rain. It's a lot more common to see very heavy rains which will create attenuation along the path. Heavy wet snow is generally speaking not as dense as heavy rain. That's at least our experience at Ciclo. The only maybe factor to take into account is the fact that the wet snow can, with the wrong between quotes, wind and temperature condition can start actually clogging on the antennas and then will turn into ice. And that now becomes really the challenging problem. Too much ice on the antennas can take a link down. Other questions? There's here a question about PoE power. Maybe I confused everybody when I mentioned the 1200TX and 600TX in the same chart. 614TX takes a lot, shares more from that point of view with the 600TX. So the same 3 ports Ethernet switch, which is built in with all its bridging and switching rules that can be programmed, and more importantly in that case, with the PoE-Out options are available. So it means that you have basically option to configure ETH2 and ETH3 on the radio to do 26 watts power out of ETH2 and 3, or you can change the balance between to 46 and 13, and you can even go all the way to 52 watt on ETH2 and nothing at all on ETH3. And in case you have maybe like a small cell that somebody would like to deploy, or maybe a PTZ camera, you have 52 watts, which is a good amount of power for many different applications. Somebody is asking about AES. I thought I talked about AES. Actually, I see here another question is related to layer 2 features. Same encryption capabilities on the 614. If you are in an environment where radio encryption is absolutely required, the 614 will do it. There is a license that should be added to activate the features, and you can basically have all of your traffic encrypted. You need to activate the license on the two radios to have it active in both ways. Same applies to layer 2 features. So if you want your 614 to be part of maybe a ring topology, or as an example, and you want the 614 to basically implement ERP or ERPS, depending on how you call it, we have that's an additional feature on the radios, same as it is on many of our other radios at Ciclo. So you can first trial the feature to see that it's going to work for you, and learn how to configure it, see that it's really what you want to do, and then after you are happy with the initial results, of course you can continue and trial for a few more days, and then don't forget to purchase or activate the license. Otherwise, the ring will shut down, and it means now that you would have traffic going right and left without too much sense. Could be very confusing, and could effectively take down some services. Okay, I see more questions coming in here. So, our the 614TX is first of all standard PoE input. So if you have a device that can deliver 60 or 90 watt of power, if you look at the combined 52 watt and 26 watt that the radio itself needs, so that's 90 watt. If you have if somebody wants to connect the 614TX to a standard PoE PSC device, 614TX is a PoE PD device, powered device, and will basically run the correct protocol to make the switch provide the amount of power that 614TX needs. So that's that standard option. There are other standard PoE, PSC devices available on the market. Not all of them can go all the way to 95 watts. And that is why at Ciclo we have decided to provide at least a few options of our own. But you just have to pay attention basically to the amount of power that can be delivered by the source and confirm that it's going to match with the amount of power that you want to get out of the PoE. I see here a number of questions about datasheet, product descriptions, and other technical information, user manual, etc. So some of them are available on our website. That's the datasheet basically is available directly on our website. And if you want more information, you have to be registered for our partners portal. I'm pretty sure that most everybody in this audience should be registered already. And if not, again, go to partners3.ciclo.com. You can log in there if you have a login, or you can request a login if you don't have one. And then you'll have the datasheet the product description, user manual, etc., compatibility list of accessories, all these are available as well on our internal portal. And if anybody wants, I see here a number of questions too about the material which is presented here. So in a few days we will upload a recording of this session together with the slides, the Q&A session. All of that will be available, and we will email to the registered audience a link to access all this information. See, another question here back to the PoE. If you connect a device which can deliver more power than the radio needs, actually there is built into the PoE layer 1, I would say, there is a negotiation which takes place, and whereby the PD device, the radio in our case, will tell the PSC device, the Ethernet switch or standard power supply, what it needs in terms of power, and in that case the PSC would, if it can, will deliver that amount of power. However, if the power supplies that you want to use are not PoE capable, it is also possible to utilize a direct DC, and we have two options to do that in the 614, just as we have in the 600TX. Sorry. The first option, if you only need 2 ports out of the radio, you can basically plug a direct DC into ETH-1. We have a small accessory which basically you wire your two wires into a special plug, and then that plug has an 145 male connector on the other side and connects into ETH-1. Again, as long as you do not need more than 2 ports on the switch, that is a perfect solution. If you need all the 3 ports to be available, we have another accessory, a little more complex, where basically you wire your 48 volt DC, 100 watts or so, into this accessory. This accessory is also an Ethernet pass-through, so all the 3 ports are active. You connect this device on the Ethernet cable going into ETH-1, and now ETH-1 is a real Ethernet port, and that accessory that we have on our price book makes it possible basically to wire direct DC into ETH-1 at the same time as ETH-1 is a fully functional Ethernet port. Okay, I'm going to see if there are more questions. I don't see anything else coming in, at least I've not a few questions which were similar to others. I hope they were already answered, and if not, do not worry, I will look again at what we discussed during the last 10 minutes or so. I want to thank you for joining our webinar today. I hope I understand that a lot of you like the 614TX already, and I hope it will prove itself for what it is in your real-world field deployments. Thanks again for joining, and look forward to talking to you again in another session. Have a good day now. Bye-bye.